Hey, this is Marcus Washington with the latest episode of So Long Tobacco Road, Everything ACC, and we want to look at Virginia. So much was made of Tony Bennett leaving, and where was this going to lead the program, and what was the defense going to look like, and what's the offense going to look like, and people drone on and on and on about the offense, and what we've seen out of Virginia's offense. They're 3-0, and it's there are some principles of mover blocker, but what you're seeing is it's starting to open up a bit. It does not mean they're going to look like Paul Westhead 7 seconds or less, but what you're seeing is the actions are different. Um, the flexibility is different. The spacing is different. We're seeing more ball actions. We are seeing the same amount of like pin downs and staggers, but the ball actions, along with being able to get your guy off the dribble a little bit because of the spacing, has added more spacing. So what have you seen out of Virginia? Obviously, in the win over Villanova, they made 14 threes. Get this, right now we're very early on. This is as of Monday, November 15th. Virginia was 8th in the nation in three-point shooting percentage at 44.62%. And it's not only necessarily the percentage itself, it's also the how. It's getting better looks. It's playing more free flowing. It's getting it more in the offense. It's having more possessions. It's all of those things that are contributing to this. And when you look at it, Isaac McNeely, a guy that you expect to have 68.8% of his field goal attempts are from three, and he's shooting 45.5%, including just absolutely undressing Villanova from the 3-point line. But then you look at someone like Jacob Kofi, the freshman from Seattle, and percentage of shots at the rim, 53.8%. Percentage of shots from the three, 30.8%. So you're looking at about 84% is either layup, three-pointer. And now we're starting to see a little bit more modern basketball because of those splits. It's also having those type of guys that can do that. Day Ames, not necessarily a three-point shooter, but when you saw in the Villanova game, Sanchez playing Ames and Rhodey together as opposed to Ames coming off the bench and Rhodey playing point. I still think that Rhodey looks a lot more comfortable off the ball. But when they're playing together, because Day can orchestrate the offense, the shots are there. Because he's grabbing ground on the bounce, the spacing is there. All of those things that have allowed these guys to open up and play a little bit more free, play in more space. And that's what I've said before. If you've watched anything or you've read anything that I have written about Virginia, it is they don't have to throw everything out. There are ways within the philosophy that Bennett was doing. There are ways to open things up and create more freedom, create more spacing. You don't have to just throw the offense out and say, hey, let me put in this whole new offense. It was never necessary. And what you've seen Sanchez do is you've seen those things. So it's been a little bit freer, and I think the players have felt a little bit more comfortable with some of the changes, just beyond saying, hey, we're doing things different. Hey, we have more freedom. That doesn't always equate to being better. But because this is within somewhat of the framework, you just took the framework, you kind of expanded it out, and you put these new these additional, not even new, these additional actions and philosophies within that construct, and you get what you get, and you get Virginia right now being 3-0. Now look, schedule gets tough. Neutral court game out in the Bahamas against Tennessee. That's on Thursday the 21st, and then they will either play Baylor or St. John's on the 22nd. Secretly, I'm hoping it's St. John's because I want to see that matchup. But as you can see, Virginia is doing these things that people have complained about them not doing for years. Up next on So Long Tobacco Road, Elliot Cadeau, now an offensive threat. We'll talk about it. Hey, welcome back to So Long Tobacco Road. So Elliot Cadeau and the North Carolina Tar Heels certainly had a disappointing end of last season. And one of the things that I think that was most disappointing for Cadeau was that as the season went on, especially you saw it in the ACC tournament, you saw it somewhat the NCAA tournament, is that teams just simply quit guarding him. A lot of them stood back in the lane or darn near back in the lane. They didn't guard them. Carolina, in close games, at times were having to play 4-on-5, especially if the team had made it into a half-court game or at least a half-court game for Carolina. And it started, it hurt them in the Alabama game. It just started to wear on the Tar Heels offense. So coming into this season, obviously you hear this every year, player X is really grinding on improving in the places where he struggled. Well, Elliot Cadeau actually did that. And you could tell by how he's playing that he has a lot more confidence in his offense. And I'll say this, you will learn a lot from a player's misses. And when you see Cadeau shooting the three-point shot and the rotation of the ball and what the miss looks like, the miss is so much better this year than last year, which is also part of the improvement. It's not only shooting a higher percentage, it's what does those misses look like? And right now, his misses are online. On top of that, what you see out of Cadeau is last year he attacked spots and spaces for his teammates in a sense. Spots and spaces, get a better passing angle, look down, get it down low in the middle of their better passing angle, getting RJ set up and the other guys set up from last year. Now this year what you're seeing is playing off 2 feet, attacking space and spots with the threat of being a scorer. And the scoring portion is no longer an afterthought. The scoring portion is no longer, oh, well, if I get to this spot and they've taken away what I had planned on doing, then I'll shoot it, which is another reason why he wasn't an accurate shooter last year. This year, you're seeing the attack to the spots, the attack of space with a purpose. Look at his footwork. Look at his angles. Look at those things, and they'll tell you that his mentality this season is completely different. Hence, the shooting percentages are different. He's 40%, 4 for 10 from 3. He's not overshooting it, so he's not shooting it to prove everyone wrong, but he's shooting it with more confidence in construction of an offense that is asking to play faster, that is asking to be a little bit more perimeter oriented because Carolina doesn't have the bigs that they've had in the past. So he's doing these things with a need to do these things without saying, oh, I finally have this freedom, let me abuse it. So he's doing it in the constructs of what Carolina wants to do. He's 4 for 10 there. And on twos, he's 9 for 17 from the field, 48.1% overall counting the threes, but 9 for 17 on twos, which is a little bit over 50%. So that's where you're seeing the improvement. Now, that's going along with having 23 assists on the season. That's in 3 games, so it's a little bit over 7 assists per game. And the thing I like is, let's get the defensive rebounds up. So he's had 3, 2, and 1. I would like to see those numbers improve because if he gets the defensive rebound, especially if it's what we like to call the dashes, because there used to be dashes in the free throw line. If he gets at the dashes or above, that first pass to the fast break has already happened. And now he he goes, and Carolina is playing at pace, which again is something that they're looking to do because it's something that they need to do this season. Because again, for the first time in a long time, Carolina really is undersized. So these aren't things that are window dressing. These aren't things, oh, I'm going to improve because I'm going to show you. These are things that Cadeau need to do for Carolina to win. And he's working on doing that, and he's done a great job at doing that. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Next up on So Long Tobacco Road, we're going to take a look at Micah Shrewsbury and Notre Dame. Hey, Marcus Washington back here with So Long Tobacco Road. So Notre Dame, probably people looked at Notre Dame's recruiting class for next season. It's like, oh my goodness, man, Shrewsbury has this team like on the right track. Give them give them a couple years, give them 3 years. Oh my goodness, give them right now. Notre Dame has started off with a very fast start, coming off a blowout road victory over Georgetown, where the Hoyers did a good job on Marcus Burton and Braden Shrewsbury, but Tay Davis and Matt Alico definitely showed that Notre Dame is more than that. Those two players, which again is very important. Tay Davis right now is averaging 16.3 points and 6.3 rebounds, and he helps Akiba Jai on the board, something that Notre Dame needs to have, which is being able to control the board so you can get the ball out to Burton, who was, I think, has improved tremendously as a decision maker, especially in transition. And even in non-transition, when he's getting 2 feet in the paint, he has improved as a decision maker. He's averaging 17.7 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists, even at his size. So again, his game has matured so much, even though he didn't have the best game against Georgetown. He certainly didn't have a good shooting game against Georgetown. But, and you'll hear me talk about this all throughout the season, which is players who make plays that impact winning. And Burton, if you look at how he played and beyond just what his shooting percentage was, and I covered the game, so obviously I was there live, and the things he were doing that doesn't necessarily show up in the stat sheet, you see how he's leveraging the attention that defenses are having on him to help his teammates. The same thing with Shrewsbury. Obviously Georgetown was very attentive to Shrewsbury, who didn't have a bad game. He didn't have an electric game, but he need to. And give Burton and Shrewsbury so much credit because they're patient. They didn't say, well, this is kind of our season. It's kind of our show. It's what we do first and then everybody else secondary. They know the attention that's being put on them, and they are leveraging that attention, and give Shrewsbury credit that he is putting those other guys, the Davises and the Alicos and the Chebahars and those guys in position to make an impact on a game in a game-winning way. Alico hit his first 4 threes against Georgetown simply because that attention was so much. He had so much space. Davis bludgeoned Georgetown. So it's not only having good players, it's good players making impact winning plays. And so far, that's what they've gotten out of Shrewsbury. That's what they've gotten out of Burton. And now it's continued to develop the others and having enough depth off the bench. And that's the next thing for this Notre Dame team. But right now, they are certainly right on schedule, if not a little bit above schedule. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of So Long Tobacco Road. Can't wait to see you again. It's Marcus Washington, MTC Media.